Hello students, welcome to yet another video of or lecture of class 12 NCERT Economics. In the previous classes we have discussed that there are two ways to study consumer behavior. One is cardinal approach and the second one is ordinal approach. So what is the difference between the two? Cardinal approach means where the utility or the satisfaction derived from the consumption of a commodity is expressed in terms of numbers. So if you remember, I have given an example. If I ask you to rate a movie out of 10, let's say if you say 8, 5, 3, 2, 1, it depends on your satisfaction. So what you are doing here, ultimately you are expressing your satisfaction in terms of numbers. So if you are saying 10, that means you are completely satisfied. If you are saying 1 or if you are rating 1 for a movie, that means you are not at all satisfied. If it is 5, 6, somewhere you have an average response. So that is the cardinal approach of studying the consumer behavior or analyzing the consumer behavior. So there is one more method called ordinal approach. Here consumer gives ranks or preferences based on his satisfaction for combination of two goods. So the another name for ordinal approach is indifference curve analysis. We'll understand what is the meaning of indifference and all. And it was developed by J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen. These are the modern economists who rejected the cardinal approach. They said consumer cannot give appropriate or the exact number, cannot express exact satisfaction through numbers. They said if they are saying 8, it depends on many factors. It is not only dependent on, if I tell you to, let's say for example, if I tell you to rate a movie, let's say you will rate 8. It does not only depend on the movie, on the end product. You might say 8 because you had a good time with your friends, or the screen was better, sound quality was better, or the theater atmosphere was better, you enjoyed a lot, even though the movie was average. Let's say the same movie different person has, or you have watched it in different place, at your home or somewhere in single screen theaters. You might have not enjoyed, the atmosphere might not have been good, or you might have experienced a bad experience there. So now you might write it as 3 or 4 because of the bad experience. So the rating what you have given is not only dependent on the ultimate product. The product was film here or the movie, right? It is dependent on many other factors. So these modern economists, they said a consumer cannot give exact number to express his satisfaction from the consumption of commodity. Understood? That is why they rejected cardinal approach and they came up with something called ordinal approach. So what is it? It is also known as indifference curve analysis. So what is the meaning of indifference here? The meaning of indifference is any combination of two goods that gives equal level of satisfaction to a consumer. I will explain this with an example so that you will understand it better. Let's say you are consuming two goods. One is ice cream and another one is chocolate. So these are the combinations. So the first combination, let's say you have 16 rupees. Both cost 1 rupees each. So you are consuming 1:15. Right, 1 unit of ice cream and another 15 units of chocolates. And the second combination is 2 and 10. Right, 3 and 6. Similarly it goes on, 4 and 3, 5 and 1. Through a graphical representation you will understand it in a better way. So these are the combinations. The x-axis is representing ice cream and the y-axis is representing chocolates. So when you are consuming 15 units of ice cream, you are consuming 1 unit of 15 units of chocolate, you are consuming 1 unit of ice cream. As you want to increase the units of consumption of ice cream, you have to sacrifice the consumption of chocolates, the units of chocolates. Why? Because consumer has two constraints. One is limited income and the second one is changing prices of goods. If you are able to remind the earlier classes, we said there are two constraints for consumers. These are the two. So as he wants to increase the quantity of ice cream consumption, he has to sacrifice chocolates. The third combination is 6:3. We'll understand why it is and all. So now, as of now, what indifference curve says is the consumer is getting equal level of satisfaction from all these combinations. These are the 5 different combinations. A consumer is saying, When I am consuming 1 unit of chocolate and 5 unit of ice cream, I am equally satisfied when I am consuming 15 units of chocolates and 1 unit of ice cream. All these combinations are giving equal level, same level of satisfaction for consumer. This is the meaning of indifference. A consumer is indifferent to all the combinations of two goods. Understood? Let's see why he has to sacrifice, why it will keep on reducing. We'll understand it later. As of now, indifference means all combinations of two goods which gives equal satisfaction to consumer. This curve shows that along this curve, at any point, even in these points, a consumer is equally satisfied. Throughout this line, throughout this curve, a consumer is equally satisfied. Whether he is consuming 1 unit of chocolate, 5 units of ice cream, or 15 of chocolate and 1 of ice cream, it doesn't matter. A consumer is saying that I am equally satisfied with along this curve. Throughout this curve, at any point, I am equally satisfied with my limited income and fixed price of goods. So what is the meaning of indifference map? Indifference map means group of indifference curves. In the earlier graph we have seen there are only two goods, right? But we are in need of n number of goods, infinite number of goods. So why we are taking only two goods is because you can graphically represent it. If you take 5 or 6, how do you represent it? So for that we are coming up with something called indifference map. Means multiple indifference curves. So these are the two different combinations of goods. Okay, the one curve IC1, indifference curve 1 represents two goods like ice cream and chocolate. IC2 represents another two goods, biscuits and chips, and IC3 represents further more goods like cool drinks and beverages like tea and coffee. So these ICs are each IC or each indifference curve is a representation of combination of two goods. This is a representation of ice cream and chocolate. This is a representation of biscuit and chips, and this is a representation of cool drinks and beverages. So IC map is nothing but a group of or collection of indifference curves. Now there is something called marginal rate of substitution. What is the meaning? This helps us to understand why the curve is convex to the origin. What is the meaning of convex and concave? I think you might have studied in your school days in science textbooks, right? Convex lens, concave lens. Convex means which, let's say if you are seeing from this side, a person is this side. So concave means C type, convex means this. So how does a indifference curve look like? Say it is convex to the origin. If you are seeing from this side, it is bulge towards you. That means convex to the origin. This is the origin. So if you are seeing from this side, how do you see? It is not C, it is bulging outwards. That means convex to the origin. So why is it convex? Why the slope is bending downwards? Why not upwards? Answer is given by marginal rate of substitution. So what is the meaning of marginal rate of substitution? The rate at which consumer is willing to exchange or willing to substitute one good for another. We have seen this, right? When in the earlier explanation, the rate at which, let's say he was having 15 units of chocolate and 1 unit of ice cream. As he intended to increase the consumption of ice cream, what he has to do? He has to reduce the consumption of chocolates. Why? Because of limited income, right? You cannot buy n number of whatever you want because you have scarcity of resource, nothing but income. Scarcity of income. We have studied this in our previous classes. So what does marginal rate of substitution does is that it measures the slope. It measures the slope of indifference curve. You might have understood what is the meaning of marginal rate of substitution. The rate at which a consumer is willing to substitute or exchange one good for another. It's simple, right? English meaning. So this is the formula to find out marginal rate of substitution of X for Y, right? Units of Y willing to sacrifice and units of X willing to gain. It can also be represented as change in Y to change in X. So how much you are willing to sacrifice ice cream or chocolate to gain ice cream or chocolate, to willing to sacrifice one good to gain another good. Let's understand it with an example. So let's say these are the combinations of two goods. We have different combinations A, B, C, D, E. Same example, same numbers I have taken, but I have represented goods with X and Y for better understanding, for easy understanding. Let's say these are the 5 combinations. Combination A says that a consumer is having 1x consuming, is able to consume or is able to afford 1x to 15y, and as they keep on increasing this consumption of x, he has to reduce the consumption of y. But if you are clever enough or if you are sensible enough, you can identify one pattern here. When he has tried to increase x from 1 to 2, here plus 1, here minus 5, right? But what happens when again he tries to increase 1, he is sacrificing only 4. Here 1, here minus 3, he is sacrificing only 3. Here 1, here minus how much? 2, right? The consumer who is willing to sacrifice will start declining. This is called diminishing marginal rate of substitution. It is not equal. Why? What is the answer? So, as his need increases, as he consumes more unit of x, his need for x will start reducing, because earlier he had less of x and more of y, he was willing to sacrifice more of y. As the number of units of y started declining, now he became what? Conscious that I am in shortage of y, so I cannot sacrifice more to gain 1 unit of y. 1 unit of x. This is called diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Why? Because there is a reason for it. Why? Because we have studied this already, law of diminishing marginal utility. Meaning the marginal utility or the additional satisfaction which he gets from the consumption of additional unit of a commodity will start declining after a point. When he was in need of 2x, the satisfaction which he used to derive from 2x was more compared to 3x. That is why now he is less willing to sacrifice y. This is called diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Why it is so? Because of law of diminishing marginal utility, right? We have come across in many shops, they say if you buy 1 coconut, it is 40 rupees, and if you buy 3, we will give it for 100 rupees. Why is it so? As per maths, it should be 120 rupees, but they are giving you 100 rupees. Why? Because they know that, and also you as a consumer, you know that you are in need of only 1 coconut. But if you want to buy more, if he wants or the seller wants to push his sales or increase his sales, if he gives all 3 coconuts for 40 rupees, you will not buy, because you know that you need only 1. If you want to buy more, then he has to reduce the price. Why he reduces price? Because he knows that the satisfaction which you get from second and third coconut will be less than the first coconut, because you are in need of only first coconut, right? That is why he reduces the price. If he price at same level, you will not buy, because you know that you need only 1 and you will buy only 1 and you will fulfill your satisfaction. If the price is same for all the units, and the satisfaction should also be same for all the units. For example, mobile phones, all these things, they will not sell you at less price if you are buying 2 or 3 iPhones. They will sell at the same price, because the satisfaction will be same for all the 3 iPhones. Because why? Because one single person is not using all 3 iPhones. 3 different person will be using, and they will get equal satisfaction. But if single person is using all the 3, then you will not buy at same price level. Coconut is used by a single person or a single family, that is why they will not buy all 3 coconuts at same price. This is law of diminishing marginal utility, which we have already studied. So what are the assumptions here? Before that, by applying formula, we can see change in y divided by change in x, which you are willing to sacrifice, which you are willing to gain. So to gain one x, you are willing to sacrifice 5. This means the marginal rate of substitution for x of y is 5. And 4, when you are trying to increase x from 2 to 3, you are willing to sacrifice only 4 units of y. This has reduced. Why? Because diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Similarly, it goes on decreasing. Why? Because of law of diminishing marginal utility. So there are few assumptions to assume to be called indifference curve is right. So what is that? There should be no change in price of two commodities. If there is a change in price of two commodities, what happens to marginal rate of substitution? You might not be willing to sacrifice, or you might be willing to buy without sacrificing, right? Let's say if the commodity X price of commodity X reduces, you can buy more now X without sacrificing Y, because your income is constant, the price has decreased, what we have studied in budget line and budget set. So all these have interlinkage. If you study, that is why I am teaching in topic wise, so that you will understand better. Without understanding the previous topic, you cannot understand it in a better way. If you know that, only then you can link it and understand it in a better way. So there should be no change in price of two commodities. If there is a change, then without sacrificing, you can buy more. Or if the price increases, what happens? Even though if you are ready to sacrifice Y, you cannot buy more X, because the price has increased now. Non-satiety, meaning the consumer should not reach the point of saturation. If you are satisfied completely, why will you sacrifice, or why will you buy more of X? Right? There is no point. If the consumer should not be completely satisfied. If he is completely satisfied, that means it is a stage of consumer equilibrium. That means he is getting maximum satisfaction, so he will not be, or he does not wish to change his expenditure or change his combination of goods, right? For example, if you want to wear two shoes for both the legs, one shoes, you want two socks. If you have one socks, only then you will buy one more. If you have two already of good quality of your favorite brand, why will you buy more? Because you are in the level of maximum satisfaction. That means consumer equilibrium. Now you will not change the socks, right? So consumer should not be at that level. Only then he will increase or decrease, or he will sacrifice or gain commodity X and Y, because he wants more satisfaction. That is why he is willing to sacrifice. If he is at maximum level of satisfaction, why will he sacrifice? And third one is rational consumer, meaning the consumer should be logical, he should be in the proper state of mind. Only then he will behave in certain way. If there might be a few people who might say, I will not buy more, I am enough with this. That for them this will not work. And ordinal utility. Consumer should be ready to give preference, give ranks for the different combination of goods. That only then he will sacrifice or gain more. And diminishing marginal rate of substitution, which we have studied, that is the reason for this convex curve of IC, right? At how much he is at the rate, how much he is willing to sacrifice one good for the other, and it starts diminishing as he increases more of X. The sacrifice, or what he is willing to sacrifice Y, will start declining because of law of diminishing marginal utility, which I have explained in detail. So this is it for the day. So we'll study the next topic in the upcoming videos. Thank you.